The Chicago Bears held on to Allen Robinson through the NFL trade deadline, so he will be remaining with the Chicago Bears for the rest of the season. What is going on, y'all? Fox Sports Talk back at it with another video talking some NFL, here to talk about the Bears. So if you're a Bears fan, make sure to follow me on my social media platforms, subscribe, do all that. So let's talk about this Allen Robinson not being traded news, because even though some of you guys might be thinking, Fies, was this really going to happen? Is this really news? It is important because there's a divide in the fan base on what the Bears should do with Allen Robinson. Okay? The two opinions, really, the two overall overarching opinions are: you keep A-Rob because you need to surround Justin Fields with as much talent as possible, and Allen Robinson is still a good receiver. Or B, you trade A-Rob, don't lose her for nothing. And also you see the fact that Allen Robinson has not produced at all in this year's offense, and he's an expensive guy that we don't really need. He's demanding a lot of money, so let's move on from him, draft another receiver, sign another one, do whatever it is you need to do. So those are the two different opinions here. And this is interesting to me because I see both sides. I really do see both sides here. Let's start with the fact of why he wasn't traded. I believe Allen Robinson wasn't traded at the trade deadline because of ownership. I believe the McCaskies, similar to last season, the year before, believe the Bears have a Super Bowl contending roster, and they want to keep their best players. That is why you haven't seen Khalil Mack get moved, or obviously Allen Robinson get moved, or Akeem Hicks get moved. So the McCaskies still believe the Bears are contenders, and for them to trade away the best players, they have to get sign off from ownership, and they didn't get that. And the reason the McCaskies believe this, even though we know the Bears are not Super Bowl contenders. Look, they can make the playoffs, they could sneak in, but they're just not. We know the Bears are not on the same level as a team like the Bucs or the Rams or teams like that. And the McCaskies believe so. Why they believe so, I'm actually not sure. Maybe it's just the fact that they don't want to go through a rebuild, but for whatever reason, they don't. And so that's what we have here, is an ownership group that does not want to start over. So that's the reason why he wasn't moved, okay? And number two, when I take a look at the opinions on what the Bears should do with A-Rob, let's start with the opinion on A-Rob isn't good anymore, he's expensive, he hasn't produced, he's washed, all of those things, right? Because he's having not just a bad season, folks. Allen Robinson is having a horrendous season. A horrendous, horrible season. Awful. If you have him in fantasy football, he's not startable. That's how bad he's been. He's droppable at this point. Not even startable, not even on your bench, droppable. That's how bad he's been. But let's provide some context here to why he's been bad. The Bears have a low passing offense, right? It went from Andy Dalton to Justin Fields. And when you have a low volume passing offense that is a run first team, you're going to have a passing game with receivers that's going to suffer. This is similar to the Cleveland Browns with Baker Mayfield and Jarvis Landry. Even though both are very, very good receivers, they just don't get a lot of volume because of the fact that the Browns want to run the football with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And the Bears do have good running backs. David Montgomery when he was healthy. Khalil Herbert's been a pleasant surprise, and Damian Williams is no slouch himself. So the Bears want to run the football, and so that's why the passing game suffers. Now, in years past, Allen Robinson has produced even with bad quarterbacks. Obviously, he produced with Mitchell Trubisky. So why can't he produce with Justin Fields? And why didn't he produce with Andy Dalton? Well, Andy Dalton only played a handful of games. So let's focus on Fields. And I believe the thing is all about scheme. All about scheme. All about the offense and all about the coaching staff. Folks, Allen Robinson didn't lose his talent overnight. He didn't lose his talent this season. He's not washed or over the hill anymore. He's still a guy who's in his prime. Maybe he's on the little bit of a back end of it, but he's still in his prime. The reason Allen Robinson's numbers have suffered is because of the offense and the scheme that he's in. If you turn this into a passing offense where, you're throwing 30 to 50 times a game, Allen Robinson is getting those passes. So he's getting those catches. So that's the reason why he hasn't been able to produce this year. It's not because, oh my goodness, he's been horrendous and every time we throw in the football, he just keeps dropping it. It's because of the fact that we don't throw the football a lot. So I don't want to buy into this notion of A-Rob is washed, okay? And why that's important is because I do believe we need to surround Justin Fields with talent. Am I okay with us moving on from expensive players because we're not a Super Bowl contender? Yes. But I don't want Justin Fields to be surrounded by garbage. You can't evaluate a guy that way. That's what ruined Sam Darnold's career in New York, because all he had around him was constant trash. And you're thinking, oh, we have a rebuilding team, so we don't need to surround Sam Darnold with any talent. No, you need to help out young quarterbacks. You need to help them out, or you turn them into what happened with Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold was able to get to the Panthers, and at the start of the year, you saw what happens when he's around a stable franchise with actually talented players and a competent coaching staff. So the same thing here with Justin Fields is, yeah, if A-Rob's expensive, if he costs a lot of money, if you have certain reasons, cool, you can move on from him. I'm not saying, oh, we have to keep A-Rob. But what I'm saying is I do not want to just be devoid of talent. I'm not trying to just ship everything out and say Justin Fields can't have anything. No, I don't want to do that to Justin Fields. You can't develop a guy properly if you don't give him talent. So we need to have Justin Fields get receivers. We need to have Justin Fields get an offensive line. We need Justin Fields to have a running game. We need to surround him with that, right? Now, again, that's what made Patrick Mahomes special. The talent was always there. But Andy Reid, the coaching staff, the weapons in Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, the run game, with the running backs that they had, the defense at times. So, I'm not saying, the comparison is Justin Fields to Patrick Mahomes. I'm just using an example of you need to surround young quarterbacks with talent. And so, let's get back to the overarching point here of A-Rob, why the Bears didn't trade him. It's because of the fact that the McCaskies don't believe that the Bears aren't a Super Bowl contender. They still think they are, and so they don't want to move the best players. Number two, Allen Robinson needs to be there for Justin Fields to get a proper evaluation. And number three, we can still make a decision after the season. So after the season, if Allen Robinson, we want to let him walk, we let him walk. If we want to re-sign him, you could do the same. So the flexibility is there. So I'm okay with this. I'm okay that they didn't move him. I know there's a lot of speculation, but I'm okay with that. Let me know what you guys think. Are you okay with it or not? Should we have traded A-Rob? If we end up losing him for nothing, a lot of Bears fans might be mad about that. I'm okay with it. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment down below as always. Thanks for watching.